MLB is now starting their collective bargaining with the union. They've been doing it virtually. They had a first in-person meeting last week in Denver. And MLB leaked strategically a proposal they made. And the proposal they made is they were willing to give the union a floor, which is what the union has wanted, which means every team has to spend X number of dollars. And the number was $100 million. There's a bunch of teams who don't have 100 million, who aren't spending $100 million. And those teams would all be forced to raise their payrolls. Therefore, they're going to sign free agents, and they're going to be competitive. They won't be allowed to tank. Surprise, you can still tank with a $100 million payroll. So MLB said, we'll do that. But in return, we want the luxury tax threshold to be lowered from 215 million down to 180 million. What does that mean? That means that any team who spends over $180 million is going to be fined, and it's going to be multiplied if they violate that number more than one season. They're going to lose money. They're going to start to lose draft picks. And then on Nothing Personal, you learn that the luxury tax threshold is the greatest thing that was ever invented for owners and for the sport because it serves as a salary cap. And the players know that. And the players say to themselves, if there's a salary cap, then that ought to come with the salary floor. But MLB suggested 100 and 180, and the players are going to say, no merci. They're going to say, no, thank you. Because players care a lot more in that union about the 180 than they do about the 100. They don't want teams to stop at 180 because that would mean the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Mets, the Angels would all have to have a $180 million payroll. But then, of course, there'd be exceptions, and you'd have an NFL situation or an NBA situation where you can go over the cap. But MLB's been clean. There is a formula that is used to calculate your payroll. If you sign Max Scherzer to a $30 million a year contract, but you defer $29 million of it for 20 years, guess how much counts towards your luxury tax payroll this year? Not 30. You can play whatever financial games you want. If you're an owner, you can defer, you can go full Bobby Bonilla, but it doesn't change how the salaries are calculated for luxury tax threshold purposes. You could hire anyone you want to get around the cap in the NFL and the NBA. There's a whole department for everyone. That's their job. But when there is a clear definition of how taxes are calculated, and there's no appeal process, there's no IRS loopholes, there's no flat tax, it is clear as day what you owe and how it's calculated. You can't get around it. So those high payroll teams are not going to want 180, and MLB knows it. The commissioner knows it. They threw it out for a reason, because you start at 180 and then you work your way up 185, 190, 195. And every time MLB goes up for the luxury tax threshold, they get something back from the players. So what the owners did, which was so brilliant, is float a number so low, entrench themselves in that position that is totally unrealistic. So when they get off that unrealistic position during the course of a negotiation, they get to say, that's a give. We got to get something in return. Rob Manfred and Dan Halem know exactly what they're doing. They're going to outlast, outwit, and outplay the entire union, as they usually do. People out there saying, hey, I think there's going to be a floor. They don't understand how the collective bargaining agreement works. The back and forth, the trading, you all do from Nothing Personal. We're going to keep talking about the back and forth, but all I ask of you is, when you see people on Twitter talking about proposals that are going back and forth, you see the anger that certain players or owners or fans have, or people in the media have, just remember, this is all done purposefully. Every leak, every offer is done. We used to have a flow chart. we would have a step-by-step of what we were going to offer, then, and where we were willing to settle and what our drop dead point was for each issue. Minimum salary, we know what we're going to offer first and where we're willing to end up. Salary floor, luxury tax threshold, pension benefits, arbitration issues, who's eligible for arbitration when, what we're going to offer now. And it's all matched because we put a dollar amount next to each offer. We calculate what we are giving the players and what it's going to cost the owners. And when we give in, we want something in return. We know exactly where we are supposed to be.